Welcome back to the Star Wars News Net channel for your early week podcast with myself, Tyler, and Miguel here on recording this on a Sunday, January 19th, 3 o'clock Eastern time. That make that 9 o'clock Spaniard time. Is that correct? 6
Yes,
hours,
but
right?
here it's like Sunday the 19th.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, you said the 18th, I think.
Did I?
Yeah, it's just
Oh
a bad
well.
joke. Sorry.
Oh well. Oh, sorry. It's my bad. I'm right over my head. Right over my head.
Yeah.
It's fine. We're gonna talk about Skeleton Crew, which this is gonna be interesting, Miguel, because I know that you were not a big fan of the show, and I would not classify myself as a big fan of the show, but I definitely enjoyed it more than you. But I'm really curious to kind of talk about what worked for you, what didn't work for you, for both of us. But also, I think there's the more interesting discussion is what do we make of this series? Because I think this series represents like the last page in a book of Disney Plus that is closing, and there's a new one that's going to be opening where Star Wars was willing to make shows like Skeleton Crew maybe and some of these other projects, and I don't think we're going to be seeing projects like that moving forward anymore, at least in the way that Skeleton Crew came about. So I'm curious to talk about that a little bit and ultimately just see where we are, after Skeleton Crew as we head forward into the Disney Plus world. But in a nutshell, why didn't this show work for you?
Um, so okay. I think it was just a very bumpy start for me. Like I thought the first episode was, first of all, super boring. I thought that it wasn't very appealing. And like from that point on, it was just, an uphill battle for me.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there were some episodes where it was like kind of nice, but I wasn't getting the emotional investment that I was seeing other people in social media having. So I reviewed the fourth episode and I pointed this out. I thought that that episode brought a lot of emotion out of
Mm-hmm.
certain characters that hadn't been present before. And I think that was also true for some other moments later on in the season, but I don't think it was overall very, I wasn't very invested in it
Mm-hmm.
overall, I would say. And yeah, like like I did get, I did buy, for example, Fern's moments in the finale where she was like, yeah, like, trying to like she cared about the other kids and she cared about,
Mm-hmm.
her mom and she was regretful of her, misdoings. But
Mm-hmm.
I was just, yeah, that was fine. But other than
Mm-hmm.
very specific moments and the overall thread that was Jude Law being, pretty great at it, I wasn't very impressed with what the
Mm-hmm.
show came to be at the end.
Mm-hmm. I For myself, there's a level of wanting to really care about these characters and really care about it. And with Star Wars, like anything Star Wars, I put more weight on my experience, my viewing experience, my willingness to accept certain things than maybe I would for other shows, movies that exist. Maybe I'm a little bit quicker to turn it off and not complete it. And with Skeleton Crew, I wanted to care more about the characters, and I actually did. Like I felt myself trying to get myself to invest a little bit more of my like emotions, eh, my mental state into to where these characters were going. And I did enjoy the series. Like I had a good time with it, but and I said this on the live show, I get it to pretty much, like an average, like a good breakfast meal that you might have. Like, you eat it, you're enjoying it, but then you just get on with your day. You don't really think twice about it again. And that's kind of where I was with Skeleton Crew. Is I enjoyed the episode. All right, what's on next? Like I'll flip it on to a ball game, or I move on the next day and watch something else. It really wasn't like some episodes with other shows, even the shows that haven't necessarily resonated well overall, like The Acolyte, for instance. I don't think was a very good show. I think you could argue that Skeleton Crew from start to finish was a little more cohesive than The Acolyte was, but I found myself rewatching certain episodes of The Acolyte a couple times just to see, oh, what did I miss here? Or I was at least interested enough in what was going on. Or episodes of, Book of Boba Fett, even where not a lot's going on here. It didn't really feel like a very great episode, but no, it's Star Wars. It felt like Star Wars. I want to go rewatch it. And not the Skeleton Crew was not Star Wars, but it felt like they were trying to. I almost akin it to this. It felt like they were trying to, when you're talking with someone and they're trying to sound like really intelligent or say something really profound, but that they don't
Yeah.
necessarily understand what they're trying to say, but it
Yeah, that's me
also
all the
is,
time.
it's you're the person that sees that, or you're the person that's acting like
Who's acting like that?
that. and I think when you're someone like with someone like that, you can almost see through that little facade that
Yeah.
they put on. And I think Skeleton Crew was a little bit like that, where some of the messaging, some of the themes were deeper, like trying to seem deeper than it actually was. And in reality, it was kind of a very shallow like show. Like it didn't really crack the surface in where it needed to. There was times where it did, but it wasn't like cohesive. It wasn't consistent. It was very hit or miss. And that's kind of where I was like, what were they really trying to do with the show? I think that was missing just a little bit for me.
I mean, to me, like, I always took the show as written by 13-year-olds.
Mm.
And I mean that in a good sense, and in a bad sense. So I always took it like 13-year-olds going, and maybe like even younger, maybe 9-year-olds, I don't know, going through their day. Like, let's say we go with the family to the spa. And at the spa, we're super bored and we're trying to, imagine all these adventures that we could be having. So imagine there's a treasure on the ground. Imagine like those people over there are pirates. Imagine that, so on and so forth. And I found a lot of parallels in the way that a 13 or 9-year-old
Right.
would think, and how the show was actually evolving, what the plot was evolving into. And then at the same time, I also found that some of the emotional depthness that I think the show could have had, was written by a 13-year-old and wasn't really there. And yeah, like there were some, overall themes of guiding people to like stick to their paths and not appreciate their families and not
Right.
live by themselves and so on, like Joe did. But I didn't that didn't really resonate with me as much as it should have, probably.
For me, it was I wanted to really love Wim's character more than I did. I will say, I
Yeah.
thought all the kids did a great job. I thought everyone did a great job. To me, it was just in the substance of what we got, and there was limited time as well. And that's this recurring theme, with Disney Plus here is we're trying to tell these stories in a very condensed, way. We have less than 30 minutes for most of these, or right around 30-minute episodes, and it flies by. But for like Wim's character, I really wanted to connect with Wim's character more than I did. And I love each one of these kids, but it felt like each of them had like a moment, but it wasn't like a lasting moment. It was like a glimmer,
Yeah.
where it was like popping a little bit, and then we're back doing something else. Because like KB and I think it was the episode before the
sixth
episode
one.
6, the sixth one, amazing moment where we kind of slowed down a little bit. It was 6 because 7 was
yeah.
so it was 6. That was, I thought, amazing episode, a great moment for KB and Wim to kind of have those conversations. But we didn't really see a lot of that throughout the entirety of the show. And I would have liked to have seen, Neil, a little bit more and have these moments with these characters interacting with each other one on one a little bit more, see them overcome a little bit more. And I kind of see what you mean about the feels like at times you get the bright parts of a 13-year-old's perspective in all of this and what that is, and then there's the negative parts of that as well, where it, and I think, what do you make of Star Wars trying to gear a show towards that age group, that demographic, and trying to do that, because it felt like everyone knew what they were going for, but I also am not sure if the show itself would really appeal too much to younger people, because the most compelling part about the show to me was Jude Law's character, who is the adult in the room, and kids are naturally, I feel like they're going to want to hang out with the kids more. But so I was a little bit curious, but even Jude Law's character, I don't think necessarily got, as much as we would have liked to see.
I mean, there's like this um, misconception, I think, online when you bring up this question of, and I do think that this show was aimed at 13-year-olds. It
Mm-hmm.
was mm, made for them, and so was Star Wars, and that is usually the whole like
Mm-hmm.
counter argument to that. That George Lucas also made Star Wars for 13-year-olds to guide them through life's difficult
Mm-hmm.
choices. It's like, yeah, but there was so much more to Star Wars. There was so much more to A New Hope, and there was so much more to all the movies that came after that. And I think that Skeleton Crew didn't have much else up its sleeve.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was its, I want to say big mistake. I think there were like others, but yeah, that they were
Mm-hmm.
so focused on this one thing, like appealing to this demographic, that they just forgot about everyone else. And I'm not saying that George Lucas also intended to diversify, but whatever his intentions were, like those movies are enjoyable by everyone.
Mm-hmm.
They're like they can be enjoyed by 13-year-olds, and they can be enjoyed by 40-year-olds as proof of its lasting legacy over the past almost 50 years now. So yeah, I think, and also, I mean, this
And
is
how
like
many
much
13-year-olds are watching Disney Plus in general, or
well, I
even
mean,
Star Wars on Disney Plus?
I mean, 13 years, maybe it's like 9 years. Like maybe this, as we've mentioned before, this is more of a show for like families and
Mm-hmm.
young parents with their 7 to 10-year-olds.
Right.
And I think that's also like within this demographic. I'm obviously not super well
Right.
versed into like the different age groups and what is enjoyable by whom, but
I'm saying right
I mean
now,
like
there's no middle school kids watching Skeleton Crew.
yeah, but I mean, in general, like preteen,
Right. Mm-hmm.
the age,
Preteen, maybe.
yeah, preteen age group basically. And and yeah, like I don't know, I also like again, like I found it generally boring. Like I didn't think there was much going on. Yeah, it through the end, it was a bit more intense, but still like visually to me it just never caught my eye. It was always
Mm-hmm.
like the images were always super
Mm-hmm.
saturated, they were always like super gray. Sometimes it was difficult
Mm-hmm.
to see what was going on. And I get that I watched a few episodes on my laptop, so maybe that wasn't the best screen, but at the same time I don't think you're supposed to have a cinema like quality screen to enjoy a TV show. I think that there are some
Mm-hmm.
beautiful TV shows out there that have been shot, for regular TVs. Like everything was like there was no light basically in the show. Like
Mm-hmm.
everything was super dark. And yeah, that doesn't really speak of the plot, but I also found that like a big barrier for me to cross whenever I put on an episode. Like
Mm-hmm.
it just
It took
wasn't.
me till the very last episode to get really excited again. Like I started off, I was like, okay, we're gonna get on our adventure, we're having some fun. The first few episodes, I was
Yeah.
willing, I'm taking it slow. And then it kind of got plodding along. And you know me, I'm reading these comics, I'm reading these books, something new drops out, I gotta watch it as soon as possible. And like it says a lot if I'm feeling like, oh, Tuesday at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, whenever it comes out, and I'm thinking I'll get to it tomorrow, or when I get to it, when any Star Wars show has come out, it's like that show comes out at this time. I'm on my TV. I'm ready to go. Like as soon as it comes out, unless it was the old days of the 3 a.m. drops. Sometimes I wouldn't make it for a 3 a.m. drop. Every once in a while, I might make it for a 3 a.m. drop. Most of the time, that didn't
Now the
happen.
shoes are on the other table because now it's 3 a.m.
Yes,
for me. And
yes.
I'm not
So
waiting up for a skeleton groom. Sorry about that.
right. So I I just wonder what we're gonna see moving forward because a show like this, it's still remarkable to me that obviously Bryce Dallas Howard's done a lot of Star Wars, but she's involved in this. John Watts is a big name. You have a lot of big names here as directors for these episodes, from David Lowery to the Daniels, Lee Isaac Chung. Like there's a lot of people that are involved in this project. You get one of the more well-known S tier actors in the world and Jude Law to come headline your show. You're capitalizing. You have Carrie Condon coming in to be in this show, Oscar nominated actress from the previous year, and it feels like all of the things were aligning for this to be a major project. And it kind of just felt like one of the projects that I will not necessarily see many people going back to again and going,
Or
and that's
even
that's
going into it for
generally
the first time.
right. It just seems like it comes and goes, and it doesn't really leave a lasting legacy on Star Wars. And I think maybe that's where we're talking about the turning of a page when it comes to Disney Plus and Star Wars. Is I don't think we're going to see many projects anymore like this. I think anything we're getting in live action Star Wars from now on Disney Plus is going to be a little bit more spread out, and it's going to be pretty hard hitting. Like they're going to be pretty important type shows. And like obviously we have Andor and Ahsoka after that, but I think the days of saying we're going to have all of these different projects coming together and something like Skeleton Crew, I don't know if we're going to see that again, because they lost a lot with the Acolyte. This show didn't really do much for them, and I'm wondering in the future, are we going to build around one flagship show again? We're going to try to find that again and then maybe branch off from whatever that is, and rather than try a little bit more, because Skeleton Crew is essentially a branch off from the Mando universe because it's in that time. But again, it doesn't feel connected really in any way. Like I'm
There's
not
only like
watching
one
that.
character in common.
Hmm.
There's like this
Yeah.
one pirate that didn't even get a big presence in the show.
Hmm. Right. So it
And
doesn't no connection.
I mean, my most my biggest question right now is whether they're gonna renew it, because judging from their reaction to the Acolyte, they shouldn't. Because this show, like so far, I think there are like 3 weeks, so I think 4 episodes now. The first 4 episodes came out. Let me see how I phrase this. So Nielsen has reported ratings for the first 3 weeks that the show
Hmm.
aired, and the show didn't chart, meaning that it was viewed by less than 300 million. Sorry, it accumulated less than 300 million views during each
Hmm.
week. And that was even counting like the third week where it had like 4 episodes for people to watch. So
Hmm.
I don't think many people are watching the show. Like the first 2 episodes of The Acolyte got a lot more views than that, and they didn't renew that. And we know that these characters are gonna pop up later on, like whether it's, Mando and Grogu, or whether it's like Filone's movie or somewhere else. But like, are they gonna renew it? Because it, I think that even though I was the first to say that The Acolyte shouldn't be renewed based on the numbers it did, I am also not naive enough to think that the reception of The Acolyte didn't have anything to do with it. That had the show been much, much better received, maybe the decision wouldn't have been as fast.
Hmm.
I'm not saying that it would have been renewed, but maybe it wouldn't have been like as fast. And maybe like they could have said, instead of two more seasons, you wrap it up in one season or whatever. It has to be cheaper.
Hmm.
I don't know. But Skeleton Crew is like, are they gonna renew it? Are they gonna like, push these characters into another
Hmm.
series down the road? Are they gonna, like they left? That was a pretty abrupt ending, and they didn't
Hmm.
close many doors with that.
Hmm.
And like that's my biggest question right now. And
I don't
uh,
think it's gonna get renewed. I would be
I
shocked.
don't think
I
so
would really
either.
be shocked.
I don't think so either. But like this goes back to a conversation that we had on. I can't remember if it was this show or the live show where I was
Right.
saying that basically what Skeleton Crew has to do is to be like the most vanilla, uh, average, non-insulting show that they can come up with. And that's basically what they did. The problem is that nobody watched. But in terms of reception of those people, of those who watched, it was like mildly positive, I think,
Hmm.
especially at the beginning. Like I think
Hmm.
that more people got on the boat of this isn't as good as it should have been as the season went on. But I think at the beginning it was like super positive. Even in the end, like I think most people enjoyed it overall.
Hmm.
So are they gonna apply the same logic to the Acolyte, or are they gonna say,
Hmm.
okay, so this show is generating some goodwill and maybe like people will catch on, and for season two maybe it will be a bit better. I don't
Hmm.
know, wouldn't be fiscally responsible, but at the same time they're also building a brand, and they're also like trying
Did
to
they?
course correct from past mistakes that have put the fandom on the wrong side. So
Did 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 people? I don't. I'm not in the business of telling people how they actually feel or don't feel. I think there is people. There are individuals that are going to love everything Star Wars because it's Star Wars, and I I say I love Star Wars. I love everything that comes out. I will find something to appreciate about it. But I think there are those that take that to the extreme. Like these are
yeah,
my favorite characters ever, and you just see
yeah,
that everywhere sometimes. And just
yeah,
like there's the people that are going to hate everything. And I feel like the people that are on that one side, they are always going to be out there versus I don't think enough people cared enough about the
exactly.
show to mount up a counter of, oh, this isn't any good either. Not that the show wasn't a good time for those people. I think it genuinely, for the people that are entrenched in everything Star Wars, most of them probably, it seems, had a better time with this show than they did the Acolyte. But I don't think this show generated enough of a fervor within anyone to have those discussions on Star Wars versus the Acolyte deals with things like the Force, the Sith, the Jedi. It's a much bigger show to take on, so you're gonna have those bigger opinions. This one, I just don't think there was people didn't feel like they had skin in the game when it comes to Star Wars. Like this show was never going to be groundbreaking in any sort of lore or canon aspect. It was going to kind of come and go as it is. And so moving forward, I don't think that they take that much into consideration, like the idea of this positivity that was there because still didn't necessarily generate the numbers. And I would almost be it's almost a little weird that there isn't more discussion of the show. I think that's one of the things that Star Wars has always had going for it, even sometimes when it's really negative and not in good faith discussion, is people just hashing it out over what's going on. I think that's one of the strengths of Star Wars is that there is a lot to interpretation and people can have different, opinions of how things connect together and which characters made these decisions for what reason because there is a little of ambiguity when it comes to a lot of the Star Wars that we have. But this show just did I don't think it generated any of that necessarily. And
No,
I'm not saying that's a bad thing because there is something to be said for taking off your analytical hat and just sitting back and watching something. And that's kind of what this was. But in order for that to really, I think, be something worth renewing and expanding upon more, you probably need to have a little bit higher return on investment from a viewership standpoint. pretty early on, and we'll see. Maybe it'll be one of those things that catches on as it sits for a little while, and more people come to it
Let,
if they hear positive things. But I can't see that being this show.
let me ask you this. Do you think that if this show had come out in late 2020, meaning the peak of Star Wars TV viewing, do you think many more people would have watched this? Meaning, do you think that not enough people watched this show because it didn't generate enough buzz and enough, the people that liked it didn't rave about it enough for other people to catch
Mhm.
on? Or was it because there's been so much Star Wars and some of the discourse has not been as positive lately, so that's
Mhm.
also like wear down other people, which is an effect that you wouldn't have felt back in
Mhm.
2020. So do you think that
Mhm.
this 4 years ago would have performed much better?
I think it performs significantly better because I think Star Wars in general, from a brand standpoint, was at a little bit of a better point than we were recently removed. Whether you loved or hated The Rise of Skywalker, we're recently removed from The Rise of Skywalker, which, whether you love or hate it, movies generate, we talked about this before, movies generate that conversation. Star Wars is kind of in the conversation. We're coming off of Mandalorian. I think that definitely you get a lot more people that watch it but I think Star Wars has had so many things come out at this point, and the recent Star Wars that we have gotten for many people has felt, I don't know, diluted or less than what the standard should be, that a lot of people I think have just checked out. I think a lot of people have checked out on Star Wars in general. I don't think that the brand of Star Wars carries the same weight that it did 5 years ago. I don't think it's really even close. I think that Star Wars desperately needs to be back in theaters. And I think if Star Wars gets a really good movie that makes a lot of money and is really positive, I think the next big show that comes out after that, you're going to see the ratings go back up because people will feel invested in Star Wars again. I just don't think many people feel invested. I don't think they care. I think that the Acolyte for some people was the last straw, and they're like, you know what, it's not worth putting my time into all of these shows. And I can't blame some of them because it does feel as if there is just pure chaos going on over there. They can't figure things out because it's not like you're sitting there going, well, I'm not liking this show, but I have this movie to look forward to. Because you have Mando and Grogu in 26, but it wasn't like that was really publicized this year that, oh, we're filming this movie, we're shooting this movie. What was really making noise this year was the Ray movie can't figure out what to do. The year before that was how Rogue Squadron is dead, and all you've had is negative news after negative news. Star Wars desperately just needs a win, and I don't think you're going to get a win from Skeleton Crew. So I don't know what show would have been able to generate great viewership at this point in Star Wars right after what happened over the summer. I think a lot of most any show might have struggled a little bit on the initial viewership.
So I think that had this show come out in late 2020, I also think it would have performed better. I think that a lot of people are just checked out. And it's not just Star Wars, like, in general, like big franchises, meaning Marvel as well, is struggling on TV.
Mhm.
But also because of similar reasons, that their shows haven't really landed with people. But I just don't think that this show would have performed even like better than Andor. I think
Mhm.
that the ceiling for this show in ratings would have been
Mhm.
under numbers, under season one.
Right.
I don't know
Mhm.
what season two is gonna bring.
Through
I,
the
I just don't
roof.
see that, like the kind of show that would have grabbed people enough.
Mhm.
And like there's something to be said also, like maybe Book of Boba Fett would have been that ceiling, but Book of Boba Fett carried that legacy name that already gets a lot of people into the door,
Mhm.
through the door, excuse me. So um I don't
I
know.
don't
I
disagree
think
with
yeah,
you. I don't think it would have been, oh my goodness, Skeleton Crew, and we'd be sitting here right now on Skeleton Crew season 3. Like I don't think
no.
that would have changed anything, which kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier is what what was our purpose with Skeleton? Or was there hope? And when they're watching these shows, when they're doing their corrections, when they're going through their scripts, like what is Lucasfilm, what is Disney Plus in general and Lucasfilm, what are they missing from the creative
Right.
process
What are the
around
notes that
Star
you give
Wars?
this show
Mm-hmm.
to like prop it up? I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know. Like we can like go through those.
Mm-hmm.
I would have probably had to rewatch this show a couple of times to actually, write down 5 notes that would have maybe improved this. But I also think that it's not a bad thing that this show came out because of what I was saying earlier, that they needed something, different, but also safe enough for people to not be offended by. Like, if
Mm-hmm.
the show is like mediocre, then that's fine. It just wasn't, the reception to it wasn't as bad as the Accolade was. Not meaning
Mm-hmm.
quality, meaning, polarization of the fandom.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this was the first step, and then the second step is going to be Andor. And
Mm-hmm.
Andor has the potential of actually bringing those people, then the people who enjoy, season one of Andor, and also like people who enjoyed season one of Andor that are maybe not watching Star Wars regularly, because
Mm-hmm.
that was, I think that carried the legacy of an HBO like show that,
Right.
uh, you can hop into this and you're gonna enjoy this like you enjoy,
Yep.
House of the Dragon. And I think that there's enough goodwill with that show to at least perform better than season one did. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
sure this is gonna get like, huge numbers, but I
Mm-hmm.
think this goes into the rebuilding of the brand.
Mm-hmm.
And with, a show that doesn't really do much for people, but it was there. A show that will probably do a lot for many people, and then
Mm-hmm.
carry that into, Mandalorian and Grogu, and carry that into Ahsoka season 2 in 2026.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a pathway for Star Wars to be
Mm-hmm.
back.
I
But I
agree.
am
I
also very
agree. I
optimistic, so
was very negative, but I've I'm very positive moving forward because you make a good point. The skeleton crew is almost kind of like the bridge between
exactly.
getting to the next point, and Andor is going to be it's going to be great. And I think by the time we reach 26 and we get to Mando and Grogu, when we think about, if that movie is successful and that movie is a good time for people, we'll be at a point where when we're looking back on Star Wars, the the distaste in our mouth, like from the Acolyte. And I say that from a standpoint of the polarization of the fandom and the
Yeah.
conversations around it, because let me tell you right now, there is with every fiber in my being, I am upset at the fact that we finally got His Royal Highness Darth Plagueis himself in live action, and I might not ever see him again in live action, or at least for a long time, when that was sitting there right there. And I'm both upset at people for not watching the show, and I'm upset at the people who made the show to take so long before giving the show what maybe it should have been. So
Right.
regardless, moving forward, I think by the time we get to 26, we'll have enough things that have taken place since that point to where maybe we're ready to move forward in the fandom. We're ready to move forward to the next chapter, which is why Skeleton Group was maybe it was like the end of the book, and you close the book, and that's kind of the last thing that you remember, and you don't necessarily have like a good or bad feeling. You just kind of, all right, you feel whatever, and you're like ready to move on to the next one. You're hoping it's a little better, but it's not the oh. You close the book, and you're like, oh man, like that was just too much. Like I don't want to pick up another one for a while. I don't think we're at that point anymore.
No, I mean, to be honest, like it was so unmemorable that I was a bit, you know, scared of jumping into this conversation and not even remembering what the show had, what the
Mm-hmm.
show was about. Like, I do know what the show was about, but I don't remember every
Mm-hmm.
single thing that happened. I think by the time the Acolyte ended, I was more able to put a cohesive,
Mm-hmm.
summary of the season. Not
Right.
to speak of, Obi-Wan, for example, which was also like not great, but it was, I think, better. and I think
Hmm.
had better episodes overall. And I mean, The Acolyte, yeah, I think The Acolyte had lower lows, but there were some pretty high highs in that show.
Hmm.
Like, I don't
This is the roller
remember.
coaster.
I don't remember coming out of any episode of Skeleton Crew as I did coming out of, the fifth episode of The Acolyte, which had all the
Hmm.
lightsaber action, or
Hmm.
how I came out of the finale even. Like, I really enjoyed the finale, so
Hmm.
I don't.
And that's one of the
I
points with the finale. All like with some of my Star Wars friends and or people online, it was all anyone was talking about. Even there wasn't that negativity. I don't think surrounding much of the show after the finale. It was, oh my goodness, Darth Plagueis, or like what are
right.
the replicate, like what are we gonna do about this? Like how is this gonna affect Yoda showing up at the very
Yeah,
end? Like those were things that the
there's a lot
people
of
start
conversation. Yeah,
talking. The conversation is important, and
the
that's
good conversation, the good kind of
mhm,
conversation at least,
right.
not the polarization and the division between people about
Hmm.
the gender of the main character or whatever.
Hmm. Right. Absolutely. And those are conversations that are I hate I don't want to rehash things that we've talked about before, but it's so sad that we 2025 or 2024 was a year where we had a Star Wars show come out where much of the main cast of the show have reflected on how sad and traumatizing aspects of them being in Star Wars was. And I think about how Amanda Stenberg went from cosplaying as Padme on the
Yeah,
floor of Star Wars Celebration, being so excited to be a part of it, to then having where Amanda was now, which is talking about how this was like a terrible experience, and
yeah.
there was a lot of lows, and I hope that
No, no, absolutely.
get
Yeah,
to say, yeah.
I
So
also
so
feel
I'm
very bad for that.
that's why I'm hoping that with like when I finished watching Skeleton Crew, the finale, like I really enjoyed the finale. I thought it was like the score was really exciting. I thought it was the best episode of the season by far.
But by
But
the
as
way,
soon as
like,
I
speaking of
Mhm.
it, the score overall was really good.
Mhm.
Not specifically the finale, but I thought the score of the season as a whole was really good. But yeah,
Mhm.
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was it was more of like one as soon as I finished it, I was like, that was good. I really enjoyed that finale. But my first thought was how many days until Andor. Like I was almost
Yeah,
more excited. Okay, it's over. We watched it. We're done. I can fully focus on getting ready for the Star Wars event of 2025. And that to me was it just made me really excited because I think that first of all, Andy Serkis is coming to Orlando in a few weeks, and you bet your butt I'm going to meet this man. And I'm really hoping that he does some sort of panel or something, and I'm going to flat out be
you're
like,
really
"Are you in?"
collecting. You're really collecting like Lord of the Rings stars in this MegaCon Orlando. Because last year was John Rhys Davis,
So,
and
did
this
I
year
ever tell you what happened with John Rhys Davis with my friend?
you sent me a video of asking a question that I sent you.
So, so my friend has a replica of Gimli's axe,
Okay,
and we were
like
gonna. He wanted
real
to
size.
like it's like this big. It's huge.
Okay,
It's heavy. It's metal, and he was gonna bring it to MegaCon, and I said, "You can't bring metal objects into MegaCon. Like you can't. It's against the rules." And he goes, "I'm gonna try anyway because he wants to get John Reese Davis to sign the axe." And so I'm like, "All right, we're walking in. You know, we're gonna make sure we're not being sus, right?" So we're walking in. I'm feeling like I'm about to get thrown out, like because we had like our media passes or like our VIP passes, and I'm thinking we're gonna get thrown out, and we're not gonna be able to go the rest of the weekend because this man's trying to bring a lethal weapon into. Where we get to the checkout thing, and they're supposed to check your props and things when you walk in, and they check it, and he just goes, "Oh, we're just the VIP. We're bringing this in like VIP like media pass thing. It's for a media pass thing." And they said, "Oh, okay, send us on in." That is 100% not okay. Like that was 100% should not have been allowed. Anyway, so we get in, and he just goes to John Reese Davis' booth, and just sits there and waits for him to show up. John Rhys Davis gets there, sees the axe, walks to him, the friend, and then like does a photo shoot with my friend. And then there's like a video that he had someone in line take of John Rhys Davis like defending him against his security guard and like doing this whole thing. And so my friend has all these pictures of John Rhys Davis and him holding the axe, walking around, didn't even charge him for it. Just like normally they didn't. He just thought the axe was so cool, and I'm thinking to myself, we should have been thrown out of this for trying to bring a lethal weapon in. Instead, this is only going to make him want to bring, like an actual replica of Aragorn's sword this year or something like that, and trying to see, what I mean. So, but Andy Serkis is going to be there, so I really hope he does some sort of interview, like panel thing. So, because if it's not the person that's moderating, I'm gonna make sure I ask him flat out, and he can lie to me about Andor season 2 if he wants. If I want to force him to lie to me about it, like are you in Andor season 2? Is Kino Loy back? Because we've gotten the rumor.
That's confirmed.
Is it confirmed? I feel like all we've gotten is the rumors. They confirmed
Lucasfilm
that?
has confirmed it. There's an official press release from Lucasfilm saying he is back.
I thought it was just one of those little.
No.
This guy said,
no.
if Snyder says that, Kino
these eyeballs have seen the press release.
All right, then I'm changing my question to, he can lie to me if he wants. I just want to look him in the eyes while he lies to me. He's like, do you speak to director Krennic in the show? And he's going to lie to me. He's going to say no, or he's going to like, I guess we'll have to wait and see. But I need to see the look in his eyes when he lies to me about it. That's what I need. Because I'm in this weird boat where that's the one thing in Andor season 2 that I want. I'll be honest. Like if I had a wish list, that's the thing I want more than anything, is to see those two characters have a war of words.
I'm gonna be that guy, and I'm gonna say that I would ask about the new Lord of the Rings movie.
I'd be too afraid to ask. Because I'm afraid my question would come out like, so is this thing actually real? Like, is this real life? Like, is this a real thing? I mean, was this a joke?
I would have to phrase it as to masquerade that feeling, yeah, or the feeling of please don't do this. But I would ask about, because I mean, after all, like,
can you get out of this?
Like, like, Andor season 2 is like 3 months away, so like, I'm at the point where I don't really get much of the actors saying anything. I'm just like, I'm ready for it. It's just, I can see the actual date on my calendar. So when that time comes, it's just I'm good to go. I don't need more details. I don't need more. So if he tells you like, he's gonna speak to Krennic, I'm just gonna feel indifferent about it. So I'm gonna be like,
they would just add to my anticipation, because that's the
one. Just give it to me.
Scene that I want. It's weird. I don't know if that's weird or not, but I want Kino Loy and director Krennic in the same room together, having a conversation, and then they can end the show right there. I'm done. Like, I'm good. That's weird, I know, but that's where I am.
I see.
And that's that's the Skeleton Crew's effect on everything. I don't know, tying it back in somehow. The Skeleton Crew.
I'm just so looking forward to that show. So to Andor.
No, I have Andy Serkis. Lord of the Rings is the only Lord of the Rings person I think that's going to be there, though. So I'm excited though. I mean, there's not a lot of. Jude Law is actually going to be there.
Okay.
They just announced like a couple of days ago that Jude Law was coming to Orlando for MegaCon, which was exciting.
Is he promoting something, or just getting money for being there?
It's just money, I guess, because
I guess
I don't think he has anything else coming out right now.
Yeah,
but I was a little disappointed. I'm hoping they announce a few more Star Wars things, because right now it's Ashley Eckstein is going to be there.
Yeah,
but she lives here, so that's like not really saying much because she lives in.
Missed one event of this,
Right, but she lives 20 minutes from where the convention is, so she's always where I know. And then we have Jude, and then Andy Serkis. But when I think of like Star Wars people, like those aren't people like Jude Law and Andy Serkis. I don't associate them first with Star Wars. Does that make sense? Like when I think of Star Wars people, I think of some of the voice actors for the different
Yeah,
shows, or like someone like Anthony Daniels, who's
yeah.
C3, those are the kind of people I think of. But
If you get the chance to ask Ashley anything, you should ask. So she had said when Ahsoka season 1 was coming out that she didn't have the chance to cameo in the series, but maybe season 2. You should ask if she is planning on being there for season 2. Because she might not tell you, but from the way she responds, maybe you will get an answer. That's one thing
okay,
that I would ask.
I'll have to do that. I might have to stop by and say hi. The problem is I'll have to convince Luke to pay for an autograph then, because last year
Oh, so she's not hosting a panel or something?
they haven't released the schedule yet. They haven't released the
Okay,
schedule
so no,
yet.
I meant
So
if
I
that's
hope
the
I
case, like,
hope she hosts a panel because I love hearing her talk about Ahsoka.
yeah, okay,
Right
okay,
now it looks like there's going to be a big emphasis on like Stranger Things at the panel. It's going to be huge. Like I think they have 5 people from Stranger Things that are there for the
okay.
show. Is kind of I think this is the big one of the big panels is going to be Stranger Things related. But anyway,
Which ties back to like how much did you compare Skeleton Crew to Stranger Things during
none,
none in like
because none from the
Stranger Things
standpoint
was
of
was
it's.
much better than this, or none is
Oh, I
like
mean,
this doesn't remind me the slightest to Skeleton Crew.
didn't remind me is the slightest of Stranger
Okay.
Things. Like this show, like it was just a complete. The vibes are complete. The tones are completely different. The
I guess it was more
quality,
like
like
Goonies, right?
Stranger Things season 1 to me is like the gold standard of creating a show centered around kids that
Yeah.
appeals to everyone. Like it was that first season is just incredible.
But I mean, that was the pitch. The pitch was, Stranger
Right.
Things in space. I guess they maybe shifted to Goonies later, and that was more in
Hmm.
line with what we got. But the,
Hmm.
the pitch at the beginning was, Stranger Things in
Right.
space. So I also didn't get those vibes. And I mean, I guess my next question is, do you think had this not been a Star Wars show, would you have watched like would you have finished the season?
No, I probably wouldn't watch it.
Okay.
And I don't watch a ton of right now. The only new shows, and we talked this right before, the only new shows I'm
Yeah.
watching right now are they associated with a like a brand or franchise that I am invested in, or it has to just be tons like great word of mouth or a friend that sits me down and says, "We're gonna watch this. I want you to watch this. I think you'll like it. We're gonna watch the first couple episodes." Otherwise, you know, I'm not
Right. So
not
imagine that
spending
happened.
time
Imagine like
experimenting right now.
imagine you're sat down and you're gonna watch the first 2 episodes. Do you then next week watch the third on your own?
Probably not.
Okay.
Maybe it's. I'm also a completionist, so maybe if I'm watching, but I've watched plenty of just 1 or 2 episodes of shows and never really come back to them. I think
Yeah.
it would have been one of those where I probably would have just waited for it all to come out and then asked my friend, "Hey, should I keep watching the last 6 episodes?" And if he says
Yeah.
yes, I'll probably watch. If they say no, I'd probably like, "All right, no worries, no loss here." But I
Right.
think that's a lot of Star Wars TV in general right now is for a lot of people is they just don't really care too much right now after the last year and a half. I think what it started with a very room temperature response to Mando season 3. Like I think it goes back to Mando season 3 because the hype for
Yeah.
Mando season 3 was insane. Like I remember coming off of Luke and then having Book of Boba Fett, knowing they were Book of Boba was what it was, but knowing they were reunited, were going to go reclaim Mandalore, and it felt like the hype for Mando being back was it felt like nothing we had seen from Disney Plus Star Wars at that point, and it felt like at the end of that season, everyone felt just a little bit deflated, a little bit. Like, not that it was bad. I think it gets more hate than it deserves, but it was a little bit of a deflating feeling. And I think
It wasn't very good.
ever since then, it's just felt like more and more air has been let out of that balloon to where more and more people are just kind of slipping away.
I mean, I don't I agree. I also think that Obi-Wan shares some of the blame as well, that many people uh, loved
That's
that
fair.
first, and then maybe not so much. Maybe this isn't as good as it could have been.
Remind me on the time.
As
Was that
that was like May 2022, and
okay?
then Mando was like February 23.
Right. That's right.
So I
Hmm.
no, sorry, March 1st was Mando.
Hmm.
I remember not responding very well to the first couple episodes of no, first episode of Mando, and everyone just going crazy for it. And I'm like,
Hmm.
this isn't as good as it used to be. And then I
Hmm.
got, vindicated with everyone just aligning with me
Right.
on that later on. Because yeah, I mean, and I guess the same thing happened with Skeleton Crew as well, that I wasn't a huge fan at first, and then more people started to at least I saw more people thinking the same way, which
Hmm.
again is it's not like I like to feel this way, like I was disappointed. I would have loved to
You're
see
sitting
it.
there at home going, "They're all coming back to me now." Like
No,
you're like,
not
or
really.
like Thanos, and where did that lead you all? Right back to
Exactly.
me.
Yeah.
We'll
Yeah.
see.
I mean,
The future though is it's an interesting place. We're leaving Skeleton Crew and we leave Star Wars going into the rest of the year and the next couple years in a very interesting place. I feel like it's essentially we're kind of like in I'm going to use Lord of the Rings here. It reminds me of when the Fellowship, when Galadriel says like the quest stands on the edge of a knife, to where I'm thinking Star Wars is literally like right here. Like I can see it falling off, and it just gets decapitated. It gets horrifying. But I also say all it takes is one good decision here, and boom, it's gonna restore back to the levels that maybe we're wanting it to get. I think that it's all going to come down to 26, but I think we can start that healing process moving forward now. And I think
is,
Skeleton Crew was the first step in that.
is that knife Mando and Grogu?
I think it has to be,
Yeah, right. Yeah. I think so
because
too.
if
I think
that movie flops, and then you're trying to come out with your Ray movie, you're trying to come out with it's just that movie has to do well.
I think if that movie flops, you're gonna see another huge course correction.
Hmm.
Meaning of the many movies that we're developing, we're just burning down most of them and we're
Hmm.
starting from scratch and I don't know, because it just like maybe they will just hit pause for a few years. Like I don't know,
Hmm.
like it gets to a point where just like you don't know what else to do other than just let it, ice for a minute.
Hmm. Yeah,
I don't know.
that's where I
Feels
am.
like
I don't think that
very
movie's gonna flop though. But we have a long time to talk about it. But
I don't think so either, but
Avengers still being there doesn't make me feel good. But
I should have like brought this up last week when we were talking about predictions. There's no way Avengers is gonna be there.
I agree. But until they move it, I'm still gonna be nervous. It's like you
There's
could
no
keep
way.
telling me that this is gonna happen, but until I see it happen, there's always gonna be a little bit of concern.
There's no way. Another question is whether they're gonna have another Marvel movie. I don't think there's one for February next year yet. I think that was supposed to be Blade and now they removed it. So
It feels so good to say that next year. Like it's coming out next year. It feels it feels so good to say that and not just be like, well, we'll see. There might be some creative differences between now and then to where it doesn't come out. It feels so good to say that. And what's great is I told Janelle, I said that it's probably a good thing. So we're planning on getting married June 2026. Mando Grogu comes out May of 26. I said it's a good thing we're getting married after, the Mando and Grogu movie, because if we were getting married like right before, our marriage might end real quick when you see just the level of nerddom and excitement that's going to be boiling over inside of me as I'm getting ready for that movie. And I also said it probably would bode well because she has promised, she's on record, and there are multiple witnesses to this, as saying she will watch The Mandalorian with me before Mando and Grogu to go see the movie. She's on record as saying this. She has since been on record saying she regrets saying this. But so So that knowing if we were married before, like she has no escapes, like no escapes. Like now it's like we're married. Now you really have to watch this. Like this is like part of this is part of our relationship vows in a sense. So at least afterwards, she has a little bit of wiggle room, maybe. But that's honestly, I'm excited for that just as much as I am the movie. But we'll see. Anyway, Skeleton Crew came and went, and we're moving on. And Miguel, I want to get your take on something. So
Okay, hit me.
So this is the last 5 minutes here. It's 2025 quarter century mark. So last week we did 25 for 25 Star Wars predictions. Got a few more 25 for 25 themes like in the works right now. And okay. I'm workshopping this one. And I talked to Luke about it to see how we could make this happen. I'm thinking like a 2-part series. This is going to be at some point when we have nothing going on for a while, which there's going to be a lot of that probably this year in Star Wars, hopefully. Yeah. Hopefully, I mean, I really do mean hopefully. Like I hope we get some time to breathe here. Is 25 for 25. We rank or group tier every Star Wars project of the last 25 years and since 2000. Like every 25 years. And I don't just mean like all of Mandalorian. I mean Mandalorian season 1, Mandalorian season 2, Mandalorian season 3.
But not individual episodes.
Not individual episodes. That would be too much. That would be, I think, like insane. Just like group it by seasons. So you have just movies and shows. So like movies and then a whole season of a show, and then group these. If we did episodes, it'd be 50. It'd be the 25 episode podcast because we'd have to do 25.
But I mean, you can just leave some off.
Right, but that's so much. I'll do it if you. I'll do it. I'll do it if you really want me to.
No, I don't think it's worth it. I think it works better as shows. But anyway. Have there been 25?
There have. I did because all of Clone Wars came out in the last 25 years.
Oh,
all of Rebels, all of Bad Batch.
Yeah.
So with the animation included.
Disney Plus. Yeah.
Right, because you have all the shows, and then you got 5 movies, 7 movies, 7 films.
No, 8. There's 2 trilogies and 2 spin-offs.
But Phantom came out in 99.
Oh, okay. That's true. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So like there's with all the seasons of everything, there's 25. There's more than 25.
Yeah, for sure.
There's a lot. Anyway. So I was already starting to do some preliminary rankings of some things. And the Clone Wars animated movie right now is it number 1. So we'll see if it
just because it's the only one you rewatched.
Yes, it's the only one that I have on the list right now. I was just being funny. I said, Luke, so working on the list for the 25 or 25, and it's just Clone Wars animated movie is the only thing on the list right now. He's like, good start. Anyway, all right, Miguel, thanks for hopping on. Another good week. I look forward to seeing you in person within the next year and a half. That's gonna happen. I'm excited about that. Anyway, for Light and Life, everyone, remember, we are all the Republic.